Welcome back to my channel. I'm Muriel, this as told by Muriel. Today's video, I just want to talk a little bit about working day shift in a long-term care facility versus night shift. Out of my 20-something years, I would give it a good 16 of those years I did majorly night shift. I've dabbled in a lot of day shift throughout the 21 years, but I majorly did night shift, and more recently I've become more of a day shift nurse. And so let me tell you the differences in the two, and I'm gonna be just honest as I can. Some people like to sugarcoat it and not tell you the real how it really go down, but let me tell you how it really go down. Okay, let's start with day shift. You will encounter a lot. You will learn a lot working day shift. Day shift is the shift where the patients go to dialysis, they go on their doctor's appointments. Really, the bulk of their medication is given, at least 2 or 3 of their meals, depending on if you're doing 12 hours or 8 hours. This is when they're doing most of their ADL care. Most of the ADL care is being provided. This is when the doctor is in doing most of the order changes. So as a day shift nurse, you're on it. You're starting out with a heavy med pass. You don't know what you may encounter in those first few hours. It seems as family members, they kind of almost know the times of when you're going to be at the desk. Like a lot of family members know in the morning meds are getting passed, so there may not be nurses at the nurses station to answer phone calls. But as soon as you go to sit down around 10 o'clock, the phone is just ringing off of the hook. And that time, you may have someone leaving to go to dialysis. You may have appointments you have to get paperwork prepared for. Now, night shift, at a lot of facilities, night shift will prepare the paperwork for the appointments, but that doesn't always happen. It depends on who is working that night shift. But a lot of places, night shift will prepare the paperwork for you for the patient who is leaving and going on an appointment during your day shift hours. You're making sure that your aides know that this person has dialysis or has an appointment so that they can have them ready to go. You're giving them the bulk of the medication. If the doctor comes to make rounds that day, you're answering questions for the doctors. You're inputting orders. You're doing a lot of things. You're dealing a lot with family. Family comes to visit during most of the time during the day shift hours. I say day shift morning, and after I say 5 p.m. when they get off work, they're coming through. So you're dealing with the families the most during day shift, which that in itself is a lot. When you have those family members that come in often, a lot of the techs and the nurses, they know to which the patient should be right at all times, but they know to make sure that patient is presentable and in the fashion that the family wants to see them in. Because after having a family member come in so many times and going to visit the family member and then coming back to you saying this is this, you get into a habit of so-and-so will be here at such and such time. Let's make sure they are correct. There's a tendency for techs not to do showers on the assigned shower days for the patient. It happens a lot. There are patients who refuse showers, but then there are some techs who, and I can understand, sometimes you're short, so you're not able to get all 3 of your showers in because you had to pick up 4 more patients than you normally do. But there's a tendency for techs to not want to complete their showers. When you have those patients that the family members coming in, those showers are getting done. You as a nurse, to have that patient with a fresh tube feeding bag. The tube feeding bag can't be empty. In a way, I like it because you get a rapport with the family members. I've had even hospice aides and family members come to me and tell me, I'm so glad you're here today, or I'm so glad you're working today. I don't worry about mama when I know you're here. Like stuff like that. It makes you feel good. Yeah, you kind of get a rapport with the family members and they learn to trust you or not trust you depending on how good of a care they perceive that you're giving their family member. So everything is basically done during day shift. It's a lot, but it goes by so fast. And sometimes you are extremely tired when you leave there. But 12 hours on a typical day shift will feel like 8 hours because it goes by so quickly. Night shift in a long-term care facility is more calm. It's a lot of patients are sundowning after like between the hours of 5 p.m. and say 8 p.m. Sundowning is a term used for when patients, for some reason, they tend to get a little more agitated. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's because of the melatonin kicking in or the lack of the sun, the sun going down, or what it is. But a lot of patients tend to really, I say, get off the chain during those hours where they get highly agitated, highly anxious, right after dinner, when most people will be kind of settling in and calming down for the night. They get a little agitated. But one thing I have learned with long-term care, and this is something I try to change in certain facilities I go to, they have the medications time for like 9 and 10 p.m. when a lot of these patients want to be in the bed and sleep by 8 p.m. I hate waking a patient up at 10 o'clock to give them a melatonin. I hate waking a patient up at 10 o'clock to give them a blood pressure pill, or to give them any medication, and they've been sleeping for like 2 hours. So I kind of push for facilities to change their times from 9 p.m. to 8 p.m. because there are some residents who get up 5 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning. After dinner by 7 o'clock, they're sleeping. And so those patients, I feel like, should be able to get their meds at 7 p.m. But night shift nurses and aides, the patients have already had their last meal for the day because typically 7 p.m. Night shift comes in. They've already had their dinner by then. They're getting settled. They're getting cleaned up to get into bed to go to sleep. Now, mind you, there may be 2 or 3 patients who do not sleep at night. And there are some patients that are so prone to falling that for you to keep a good eye on them, you get them up in their chair and you bring them to the nurse's station so you can keep an eye on them. This is to prevent them from falling. And when you see that they're getting sleepy, you transfer them into the bed. And there's been time, once you get to work with patients enough, that day shift, because day shift puts a lot of patients in the bed before they leave at 7 p.m. But they'll know that this patient tends to fall a lot at night, or, so they won't put that patient in the bed. They'll clean that patient up and they'll leave that patient. They'll clean them up, but they will leave them up for a night shift to put that person in the bed because they know this person tends to fall if they get in the bed early. But you're basically, I hate to say, you're just really monitoring the patients. You're keeping them clean, dry, and turned. You're not dealing with doctor's appointments. You're not dealing with patients. There are some patients who leave to go for dialysis, say around 6 o'clock in the morning. So night shift gets them bathed and get them dressed. Or even if that patient is leaving for dialysis, say they're like a 9 a.m. pickup, night shift will typically go ahead and get them bathed and dressed, but won't fully dress them. Like they'll leave their pants down by their ankle or something like that, or to where you can do a quick change. The day shift can change them quickly before they leave out for dialysis. But the rule tends to be if the patient is leaving by 9 a.m., night shift will, a lot of places have the rule if the patient is leaving by 9 a.m. for an appointment or something, night shift will typically get them bathed and get them dressed. So right after breakfast, they'll be ready to roll. On night shift for the nurses handle labs. There are labs, most lab that comes into facilities, they come anywhere between like 4 a.m. to, I say 6 a.m. to draw labs. So night shift is in charge of making sure whatever labs are to be done that day, that the paperwork is done and that the lab is collected, whether it be a specimen that they have to collect or it's a blood work that the phlebotomist comes and collect. But they make sure that all labs for that day that are due are collected. They do chart checks. So a lot of facilities require you to do a 24-hour chart check. That's where you go through each chart and you look for any new orders that were written for that day, that it is transcribed in the computer the correct way or on the paper marked the correct way. They also are over checking the temperatures on the refrigerators, like the specimen refrigerator, checking that temp, the medication refrigerator, checking that temp. A lot of night shift is in nurses are in charge of cleaning the cart, the medication cart. So throughout the day, things get spilled, things get knocked over, pills get punched accidentally, and they end up in the cart. Night shift typically is in charge of cleaning out the carts, making sure the carts are, there are no loose pills, no spills. They also, if they choose to do so, which I think night shift should do this, they go through and look for expired medication, because really on day shift you're really busy. Really, I'm not gonna say too busy, but you're busy enough to where you may neglect looking for expired medications. Night shift, I'm gonna be honest, they have the downtime to look through the cart to see if there are any expired medications. As pharmacy do come in and do cart audits, and then when pharmacy come in and do a cart audit and they see that you got expired medications on the cart, then you want to be all upset. But yeah, so night shift typically is a lot less stressful. I'm going to be honest. A lot of people on their breaks, they sleep during their breaks on night shift. Yeah, I'm just being totally honest. The hardest thing about night shift to me is fighting to stay awake, because it is a struggle and a fight to stay awake. Another difference I forgot to mention is you typically get paid more for working night shift than you do day shift. A lot of places have a night shift differential to where there's anywhere from $2 to $5 difference per hour for working night shift. They pay you for staying up all night and fighting your own biological tendency to want to sleep at night when the sun is down. Yeah. So yeah, you do get paid more on night shift, but you kind of have to balance it out. Like, is it worth it to be up all night? Because I can honestly say, once I went to day shift full time, I realized that I was happier. I was more content. I was more calm. Working night shift, I didn't realize how miserable and sad I was throughout my life, because it wasn't on the full scale of misery, but I didn't realize how sad and miserable I was until I started working day shift and realized how refreshed and alert and attentive I was. And it all was due to me going day shift instead of working night shift. Those are basically the difference in your duties as a night shift long-term care nurse versus a night shift versus a day shift long-term care nurse. But y'all, I mirror this Ask So by Mirror, and if you like what you've seen, if you have any more suggestions or anything you want to add to this night shift versus day shift discussion, please leave it in the comment section below. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.